everyone. Today we are speaking with Rick Allen, the CEO of streaming and monetization platform ViewLift. Hi Rick. Rick, could you please tell us a little bit more about your background and experience in the sports industry?
Thank you, Manushi, and it's fun to be with you today. I've been in sports for a long time. I actually had the chance to work with Muhammad Ali my last year in law school, but I really started intensively from a professional experience by running Sporting News, the oldest American sports media company, for Paul Allen, who owned sports teams and was also the co-founder of Microsoft. So I had the chance to work with Paul on Sporting News, on his teams. And then when Ted Leonsis came up with the concept for what is now ViewLift, I had the chance to work with him and his teams in the NBA, in the NHL, in other leagues, so that we had projects with those leagues themselves and the creation of a network, the Monumental Sports Network. Then we began a portfolio of sports clients all over the globe in many different sports.
So Rick, what do you think are the biggest challenges for regional sports network at this moment?
Well, the first thing I think is that it's really tough to balance the payment of high license fees, which RSNs pay to teams to be able to broadcast their live games. You got to balance that with the fact that traditional cable and satellite distribution is declining here in the United States and in many parts of the world because of cord cutting. People are getting their sports entertainment over IP delivery, streaming. When your audience goes down and you're a regional sports network, your two revenue streams start to decline. One revenue stream is calculated off of the fee that your cable provider gives you as a channel for the distribution of your games. And if the audience goes down, that fee goes down. Secondly, you're selling advertising and you have a smaller audience to deliver to advertisers. So both parts of that revenue equation are faltering. But more broadly, I think the question today is how these essential parts of what's been the sports ecosystem, how they adjust their business model to survive. You've got two entities in considerable difficulty in the United States. The Diamond Sports Group is the biggest, and they're in bankruptcy. So the question for them is, do they come out of bankruptcy and continue to be broadcasting major sports live? And then secondly, Warner Brothers Discovery has 3 regional sports stations, and they've indicated they're getting out of that business. And they're closing it down. So there won't be a surviving entity coming out of bankruptcy. It may be purchased, the rights may go back to the teams. So those two ownership groups have real issues. We have to keep in mind that there are very strong RSNs. The Yes Network in New York, principally owned by the Yankees. Masson, which is up in Massachusetts and is owned by the Fenway Sports Group principally. And here in DC, Monumental Sports, which broadcasts Ted Leonsis' teams, which we've mentioned.
So Rick, how important are these regional sports network contracts and what happens if these are not there?
Yeah, that's a good question. They really are critical. Right now, RSNs are writing essentially the second biggest contract that sports teams in basketball, hockey, and baseball receive in the course of a year. Additionally, they're really important because they're the only place in most communities where you can watch your local teams, all of their games, their home games. And so without them, teams have to find new distribution for their brand, for their games, and new revenue sources.
So Rick, according to you, what led to the crisis of Diamond Sports Group?
Yeah, I think it's important that we remember that the facts and circumstances that are giving Diamond Sports Group, which is under the Bally's brand in the marketplace, why those regional sports networks have had trouble was really related to Sinclair's acquisition of the group in the first place. I believe they overpaid for the asset. Then they structured their deal so that they had a tremendous amount of debt to service. They were over leveraged. And they have been very, very aggressive in negotiating with leagues to try to get greater rights so that they can add to their revenue. That's been very, very difficult. They were slow to move into digital, and their product was really not optimal for the marketplace. It was very highly priced. It was missing an awful lot of games. All of those factors were unique to what Bally's or Diamond Sports Group was facing. And those problems really have caused difficulties which have led to the bankruptcy they're in now.
So Rick, what do you think? What do these RSN's failures indicate about the future streaming industry from fans and teams' point of view?
Both of them are likely to be really impacted. I think as we look into the future, there are going to be more places to watch your hometown team play, more sources of distribution for these games. There are also going to be more variations in content and in style. We're already seeing you can watch an entire game, you can watch the highlights of a game, you can have your choice of on-air talent, of the talent that's describing the game to you. You've got different economic models, subscriptions, free to view, but you have to watch ads. You've got more bundling of the at-home viewing experience with other engagements, from single game purchasing, because I've got a subscription to the Monumental Sports Network, I can buy games, live games for the Washington Capitals or the Washington Wizards, but also gambling and other ways of engaging with the content. That's all really, I think, what the fans will experience. From the team's perspective, they're going to have to figure out what their approach is to this new landscape, who are going to be their new partners, and how they end up with really what they want more than anything, which is a 360-degree complete view of their fan so that they can super serve them, provide them the experiences, the merchandise, all the opportunities to really be a fan. That's what teams will continue to focus on, and it'll be expressed in new ways.
As we discussed about Diamond Sports Group, Rick, what do you think? How can the teams protect themselves from the same crisis in the future?
Yeah, a difficult question to answer. I think you go in one of two directions. Either you aggregate more rights held at the league level, and then you have the combined bulk and power of the whole league, rather than having just your own team rights. And/or you create something at the team level where you have a direct-to-consumer channel, the sorts of streaming channels we set up at ViewLift. You have those to be able to get directly to your fans without the intermediaries that are proving difficult for some of these RSNs. It's going to be hard to find new intermediaries to replace the regional sports networks. There could be tech companies who come in as licensees, streaming services, could be local television stations. All of those players may be a partial solution to this. But I think ultimately, one of the things that we're seeing with digital tools across a variety of sectors is it's allowing, and therefore to some extent requiring, a direct connection with the fewest number of intermediaries possible. Each intermediary has to be providing something of real value, or they have no reason to exist in the equation.
So I totally agree with your point, Rick, and that led us to another question, like how these distribution negotiations can be handled best, and who are the people who should be involved in those negotiations?
Yeah, once again, I think there are a couple of different paths this could take. Leagues could decide to keep digital rights Major League Baseball has talked about this. The commissioner, Manfred, has talked about this quite openly, that he'd like the digital rights to be held by the league. And that allows you to negotiate with the big distributors within the country. So with the cable and satellite companies, that could be done in a set of conversations, negotiations conducted by the leagues. But additionally, or alternatively rather, teams can go out and negotiate with their own local systems, the local cable systems in the Washington, D.C. area, for example. But in either case, there really has to be room provided for direct-to-consumer of those games directly to fans without intermediaries, so that you can pick up that cord cutter or cord never in your audience, which is increasingly a large share of the market. If you don't go to direct-to-consumer and you go through the intermediaries, you're going to miss an awful lot of your fans. I think any distribution negotiations with technology companies, with other streamers, whether it's Apple or Amazon or Netflix or others, those are probably done best at the league level. I think it's difficult for teams to do those negotiations directly.
Having a very good experience in the sports and streaming industry, Rick, what do you think is the ideal and futuristic distribution strategy for the teams and the fans' interest?
Well, I think you've got two forces moving in kind of conflicting directions. Fans want simplicity. They want to know where to watch, and they want to be able to watch with whatever enhanced engagements and personalization they desire at a price and on a device of their choice. So that's really personalization and simplicity key for the fans. For the teams, they really need to have multiple revenue sources. And what that's meant in the past decade or so is that you're seeing license rights sliced thinner and thinner and thinner, spread out among multiple partners. So you're getting a whole bunch of checks rather than one huge check. The intersection of those two potentially different routes or themes is around personalization. It's around creativity. It's around enhanced experiences. We're no longer in the age of our grandparents' live game broadcasts. The world's changed, audience expectations have changed, and to serve those fans, personalization is going to be key to maximizing revenue for the teams and leagues and really delighting fans.
So apart from this, Rick, what are the other trends that the sports industry is about to witness in the near future?
Again, I think you've got factors that pull you in different directions. Globalization, the fact that all of us watch the World Cup, for example, in football or soccer. Globalization grows audiences for teams and for sports. But launches of new sports, of which there are many and frequent new launches, that kind of fragments the audience because, again, you've got more things to consume your spare time, more sports to watch. So I think those are two important trends. Also, I think the personalization that I mentioned earlier, which is empowered by technology. Without technology, I can't understand what's important to you, and I can't deliver a tailored product that really satisfies you and delights you. And then I think I'd also mention that you've got two experiences. You've got an in-stadium experience where you're going to a live event, live game, and you've got either an at-home or on-the-road mobile experience where you're not where the players are and where the game's taking place. They have to be distinct experiences. But there are some inevitable, I think, tendencies to copy what seems to be working in one area, in one venue, and apply it to the other. You're seeing it in the fact that VR is starting to come into both an in-stadium experience and an at-home experience. Betting in the course of a game, happening in stadium, happening at home. The question will always be, how do you make them distinct? Because as a team or as a league, you want people to enjoy and identify with your brand both ways. They're not going to be at every game. They're not going to be, hopefully, just sitting at home for an entire season. So how do you make those two experiences really wonderful, regardless of which choice you make as a fan?
Thank you for your valuable time and insights on this important topic, Rick. Do you have any other recommendations and thoughts for the industry going forward?
Well, I think one has to have a little bit of humility and making suggestions for an industry sector as important as sports. But I would say, I think sports is becoming even more important. And here's why. Politics, unfortunately, here in the United States and in many countries, is tending to divide people, partisan loyalty. It's interesting that sports, which is a directly competitive endeavor, sports can really unify. All you have to do is look at, again, the Soccer World Cup, or look at a city whose team has won the cup, and everybody in that city becomes enthralled, engaged, and the best neighbors you can be because you've got a common source of passion. That's such a power for sports. It's so important. And in a media sense, sports is really the last appointment viewing. You come to watch a game when it is live. Fans overwhelmingly love the uncertainty of sports, the fact that you cannot predict the outcome with certainty. And they want to see that uncertain story unfold in front of them. And so overwhelmingly, consumption of sports is live. And I think from the industry's perspective, all of that leads to this important dictum, and that is focus on the fans. If you focus on the fans relentlessly and you really serve their needs, then the revenue will follow, the relationship will follow, and you'll build a long-term loyalty, which is the essence for any brand and any business.